The sound of a bone breaking in your favorite movie was a stalk of celery, snapped in half by a person standing in a padded room, in socks, staring at a screen, waiting for exactly the right moment. And honestly, that's the least surprising part, because almost nothing you hear in a movie is the thing you are looking at. The voices are real. Almost everything else is a performance. The rain is frying bacon, the horse is a pair of coconuts, the snow is a bag of cornstarch, and the footsteps. Every single footstep in every film you have ever watched belongs to a stranger who walked them for you months later in a completely different pair of shoes. There's a whole hidden craft behind this, and it exists for a reason. It is not the reason you would guess. It is not about art. It is written into a contract. We'll get there. Start on a film set. A film set is a loud, ugly place. There are wheels rolling, lights buzzing, air conditioning humming, and 40 people breathing. And the microphone hanging over the actors is aimed at one thing and one thing only: their mouths. Everything else is not atmosphere, it is contamination. So the sound crew fights for a clean voice, and they usually win. And then, afterward, in a quiet building far away from the set, the rest of the world gets thrown away. What is left is a strange thing: a film of people talking in a vacuum. The door, the coat, the gravel, the glass on the table. All of it is put back later, by hand, by a person performing it in time with the picture. There is a job title for that person: Foley artist. And the toolkit is gloriously stupid. A stalk of celery wrapped in a cloth, twisted until it splinters. That is a bone. Add a wet leather rag, wrung out slowly, and now it is a very bad injury. 2 coconut halves on a tray of dirt are a galloping horse, which means Monty Python did not invent that joke. They were just being honest about it. Bacon in a hot pan is rainfall on a roof. Cornstarch in a leather pouch, squeezed rhythmically, is boots crunching through fresh snow. A thick phone book hit hard with a rolled newspaper is a punch landing on a ribcage. Why does junk beat the real thing? Because a microphone does not hear a bone. It hears a shape, a sharp, splintery crack with something wet at the edge of it. A real breaking bone is dull and muffled, buried inside a body. Celery is bright and crisp and gives you the whole shape, cleanly. Through a speaker, celery sounds more like a snapping bone than a snapping bone does. But here's what surprised me. The tricks are the fun part. They are also the smallest part of the job. The real work splits into 3 piles: feet, moves, and specifics. Feet is footsteps, and it swallows more hours than everything else combined. Moves is the rustle of clothing, the whisper of a coat as somebody turns. Specifics is everything a character picks up, sets down, fumbles, or knocks over. And it all happens on a Foley stage, which is one of the strangest rooms in the film business. The floor is cut into pits, a patch of gravel, a patch of sand, wooden boards, marble tile, a shallow tank of water, a bed of dry leaves. Along one wall, a rack of shoes. Everywhere else, shelves of carefully hoarded garbage, decades deep. And then the artist watches the actor and walks the entire film in their shoes. Not steps. Acting. A tired man and a frightened man wearing the same boots on the same floor do not sound the same, and the person in the pit has to perform the difference. A limp. A hesitation. The weight of somebody carrying something heavy. All of it, through their feet, matched to a picture that is already finished. And all of this carries one man's name, for a reason nobody planned. In 1927, the jazz singer arrived with synchronized recorded speech, and the film industry panicked. Universal was sitting on a nearly finished silent picture called Showboat, and overnight it was obsolete. So it went back into the shop to have sound put in. A man named Jack Foley was there. He and a small team stood in a room with the film running on the wall in front of them, and a single microphone between them, and performed the sounds of the movie by hand as it played. Whole reels in one continuous pass, with no way to fix a single step afterward. Get it wrong near the end, and you did the entire reel again. He spent the rest of his career doing it. Late in life, he worked out roughly how far he had walked making other people's footsteps, and the number he landed on was over 5,000 miles. He died in 1967, and then something unusual happened to his name. It stopped being a name. It became a job. It sits in the end credits of nearly every film made since. Which brings us back to the promise I made at the start. Why does an entire industry pay skilled people to snap celery when the world already makes its own sounds for free? Because of something called the music and effects track. A finished film is not handed over as one piece of audio. It is delivered as separate stacks. Dialogue in one, music in another, effects in a third. And that split exists because of the rest of the planet. When a film is sold to Japan, or Germany, or Brazil, the dialogue stack is pulled out and thrown away, and a new one is dropped in its place in the local language. Now imagine the footsteps had been baked into the dialogue track, along with the voices. Pull out the voices, and the world goes with them. Your hero walks across a wooden floor in total, ghostly silence. So distributors demand what the industry calls a fully filled music and effects track. Every footstep, every coat, every glass on every table, all of it alive on a track with no talking on it at all. Because a footstep does not change language. Which means Foley is not a flourish. It is a delivery requirement. Somewhere in the paperwork, there is a clause saying the physical world of this movie must exist separately from its dialogue. And a person holding a stalk of celery is how that clause gets satisfied. And the last question is the best one. Why does the trick work at all? Because your brain fuses what it sees with what it hears. When a picture and a sound arrive near enough to each other, inside a window of a couple of hundred milliseconds, your brain stops treating them as two events and welds them into one thing. Whatever you saw, that is what you heard. Which means synchronized beats, accurate. Every time. Take the genuine sound of a real punch and land it a fraction of a second late, and it feels rubbery and fake. Slam a phone book on exactly the right frame, and it is a punch. Your ears do not get a vote. Your eyes tell your ears what they just heard. That is the entire craft in one sentence. It does not have to be true. It has to be on time. So here's the thing I cannot untell you now. Every film you love is, underneath, a silent film. A finished picture with a voice track and a very convincing costume, and somebody in socks walked every mile of it. The door you heard shut was a door in a different building, in a different year. Shut by someone you will never see, purely so that you would believe a room existed. And once you know, you start hearing the seams. Footsteps a little too crisp. A coat a little too loud. Rooms that are somehow cleaner and clearer than any room you have ever actually stood in. That is not a mistake. That is a person, months after everyone went home, standing in a box of gravel, doing your listening for you. So the next time a bone snaps on screen and you flinch, and you will flinch, remember that somewhere there is a receipt for celery. And the next time somebody tells you the sound in movies is fake, and you want to know exactly how fake, and who is standing there faking it, well, then you'll know. If this one got you, stick around. I've got another one about the deep, expensive thunk your car door makes when you shut it. And the team of engineers who spent years faking that too.